Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's panel on cybersecurity. This week, we heard about a massive cyber attack targeting the Brazilian Ministry of Health, where data about COVID-19 vaccinations have been stolen. And actually, they are even held captive by the attackers. And it is clear that every country and every continent need to be able to defend themselves against such attacks. And today, to discuss how EU and Africa can improve their cyber defense, I'm joined by Rebecca Kushemererwa, cybersecurity consultant at EY, Siim Alatalu, director of EU Cybernet, and Joylynn Kirui, senior cloud security advocate at Microsoft. And I would like to start with you, Joylynn. Could you please introduce yourself and explain what it means to be a security advocate?
Thank you very much. As you said, my name is Joylynn Kirui. I'm based in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. And I'm currently a senior cloud security advocate at Microsoft. But in the past, I've worked in one of the big. So my background is mainly around offensive security, but I've also done a bit of offensive. So for offensive security is more where you're trying to emulate an attacker, which is around the system before you also make sure test them and they're closed before further damage is done. And for defensive security where you're trying to prevent an attack from actually happening, where you put it, if someone is trying to your infrastructure, it blocks all those attempts. A cloud security advocate is where we just involve the community in preaching what security is. There's no sales here, it's just developer relations and making sure that everyone aware what security is, and especially for my in line with developers, where we teach them on how to shift security left of security primarily, or have a security first approach in their development. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joylynn, I had troubles hearing you perfectly. If you can do some settings around your connectivity, that would be great. And yeah, thank you for sharing your background. And also, you did well of explaining terms like offensive side of cybersecurity and the defensive side. And actually, I would like to move to Rebecca, because I know you have both worked with these terms and like taught them also to students. So could you please share with us your background and why you are now focusing on education as your journey in your career?
Thank you so much. I'm Rebecca Kushemererwa, and I actually have transitioned from Ernst & Young. I've been a consultant, cybersecurity, Ernst & Young, and I've transitioned now to Risk Imperium Consulting, a UK-based cybersecurity and risk management firm. It's a global cybersecurity and risk management firm. And for my education in particular, I have done a bachelor's in computer engineering, majoring in data communications. I have a master's in information security management and a second master's in public administration and management. I'm certified. I'm a certified information security auditor and a certified information security manager. So that is my background of education, but also professionally, I am a consultant, but also by passion, I am a lecturer, a teacher at one of the universities in Uganda. And the reason why I went into the education sector is because of my own struggles that I had during my 4-year bachelor's course when I was doing computer engineering. I feel I wasn't prepared well for the job market. I wasn't, there was nothing that prepared me for the job market, because for me, I discovered cybersecurity and IT audit on my own. And that was after the 4 years of education. I discovered my passion after 4 years. So I felt I was a bit cheated. I can't say it's cheating, but I feel I should have discovered my passion during university days. And because I didn't discover my passion, I set out to reach out to universities and bring awareness. There are students just like me that didn't have an idea about cybersecurity and IT audit. And I just want to find them at the grassroots when they are just in the university and bring this awareness to them. So many of us, we've just watched movies and we see these genius hackers, and you think they are really doing magic and everything they're doing is out of this world. But then when I went into cybersecurity and I saw how easy it is, and so many people are misled thinking that hacking is such a big deal, it's rocket science. And that's why I have ventured into education. I don't mind taking it up as a profession and teaching, as long as I can prepare students for the job market. And because this is an IT field, and every day IT is advancing daily, and cybercrime is advancing also as technology advances. And of course, we need experts, and and we have to begin from the education sector to educate the students to be able to handle the job market at the end of the day. So that's why I am so much focused on education, as much as it's not yet my profession, and maybe I will be a teacher. Yeah.
Fantastic. I can relate so much to what you said around. Sadly, like our basic education system doesn't necessarily prepare us for the market, and also doesn't instill in that passion for one particular field. So computer science is generally taught as a general field where it takes you a lot of time to specialize, and by the time you graduate, you are not expert in anything. And we have that classic dilemma: you need experience to get experience, but to get that experience, where is it coming from? So yeah, so it's definitely interesting challenge. And yeah, this brings us to Siim. Like, I know also you don't have necessarily you didn't start from a tech background, so you could maybe share with us your circumstances that brought you to cybersecurity, and also how you came to join the EU Cybernet.
Oh, well, good afternoon, everybody, and really a pleasure to be here at this very interesting discussion spanning 2 continents on a lovely Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. In high school, I was really bad at math, and working on anything but technology was really my aim. So I graduated as a historian from University of Tartu, and later on did a master's in the United States on international relations, and also did a military command course later on in my career. But it was the history part which actually led me to my professional career. So I was for about 14 years working for the Estonian Ministry of Defense. I was working with NATO issues. I was working with European Union issues. But it wasn't really until 2007 and 8 when, I mean, I won't focus on the cyber attacks of those days right here, right now, but that was kind of a career change for me, partially as well, and later on, and really, cybersecurity became my career maybe about 12 years ago or so. And today I'm working with EU Cybernet. I've been the founding director of this project, this initiative, which is quite interesting. And if I have maybe 2 minutes to introduce it very quickly, my current job, EU Cybernet, it's been in the cybersecurity business for almost 2.5 years. It is a project funded by the European Union, but it is implemented by the Estonian Information System Authority. So Estonians are really implementing something for the whole of Europe. And the idea is that we bring together cybersecurity experts. So really, on day one, my task was you need to cover the full range of EU's needs with experts from all the European countries. And that was part one. Part two is that you need to ensure that this expertise is available for any kind of collaboration, trainings, anything related to capacity building in partner countries. And of course, Africa is a major priority for the EU in general. and increasingly so in cybersecurity. Why is cyber? So you might think of what is cybersecurity? Is it something for the techies? Yes, 12 years ago or so it was. So if anyone said, we're having a cyber attack, so the normal response would have been, well, did you restart your computer? Did you try to solve it like that? So it was really seen as a technical issue that maybe the IT guys are supposed to handle. But nowadays it has become a full-fledged, part and parcel of our societies. It is called the second side or the other side of the same coin with digitalization. So, I mean, digitalization is seen as the path, the way to economic development. So if you don't digitalize, you're basically missing out on the perks of the modern day economic development. And of course, if you digitalize yourself, the other side is that you need to be cyber secure when doing that, because otherwise your benefits might well be taken away from you. So we're building up this network. Our aim is to have at least 500 experts from around the European countries in our list. We are to cover everything from technology to strategy and everything that falls between them. So guys with ponytails, all the way to think tankers, people who would say what are the major trends, where are our societies heading, what is needed in Europe, but also in other parts of the world to stay cyber secure and preparing ourselves for the future. So this is what I do these days for the past 2.5 years almost. So really coming from one spectrum, so the very untechnical side, to actually working with an area where technology is one important part of the big picture. So really, thank you for inviting me, and let's carry on. Thanks.
Awesome, let's do. And actually, you did mention about the need for the European Union, and this actually leads us to a good question around what's the current landscape of cybersecurity, both in EU and Africa. So you could go ahead, and then Joylynn could also join us to share maybe about the African side. Siim, to you.
Oh, okay, to me, thanks.
Yeah. What's the current need and the landscape?
Well, the landscape is changing. I mean, the biggest news of the day, if I recorded it correctly, was I mean, in Estonia at least, the big news of the day is that there is a RCAE zero-day exploit found in log4j2, a popular Java logging package. So I'm not sure if everyone understood what I was saying. I'm also quite puzzled with what it actually means. But anything, there is something wrong with your Java, you should patch it, and you should be vigilant so that your systems, because Java is very widely used programming language. It is something that is really hitting our computers hard these days. So in Estonia, we were actually issuing a warning to all the collaboration partners that you should patch it now, and also nationwide we did that. So people stay vigilant, your enterprises might be at risk. But more broadly, I mean, the cyber attacks, they come, and well, unfortunately, they don't go unless we build up better defenses, and the defense becomes, I would say, the defense is born from awareness. So user awareness is really critical, and we had our annual conference by EU Cybernet in Brussels about a month ago. Then one of the numbers I took away from it, from our distinguished speakers, was that the world is missing 2 million cybersecurity experts. So 2 million, I mean, the big question is, so who exactly do you mean? Because we need to prepare the full range of these needs. So is it just the techies? Is it just the lawyers? Is it anyone else? But what we see over the years, and the big trends are that, I would say, cyber attacks became mainstream. Cyber attackers, of course, you have the usual suspects. I mean, for instance, not to not to take anything away from a distinguished colleague here in the panel, but for instance, it was Microsoft even warning that the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, its subsidiary, the APT-25, are trying or they are looking for opportunities for global attacks on the supply chain. So basically, the attackers don't discriminate. Cyber attacks can really target anyone, and I think in the EU we are not really an exception to the rest of the world. So maybe that's for starters from our perspective.
Fantastic. How about you, Joylynn? Can you add to this from an African perspective?
Yes, actually for this particular year, what has been quite prevalent, yes, apart from this new 0 day that actually came yesterday or Friday, late Friday, for Log4j, which is a remote code execution. So what has been more prevalent in this year in Africa has been an increase in ransomware. So the countries that have been mostly affected have been Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. So with Nigeria having the highest number of attacks, totaling around 61 million in the first half of the year, and South Africa with around 31 million attacks, and Kenya with around 32 million attacks. So you can imagine we're not left behind. Africa is being targeted as much as any other, as the West. And we need to also up our game in terms of protecting our assets, in terms of preventing these attacks from actually going through. And so what has been quite prevalent is especially now around ransomware and financial trojans as well, because actually I would say Africa is one of the leading countries. We're the ones who've embraced mobile money more than any other part of the world, and it's needless to say that yes, because we have embraced this type of technology, people are trying to attack this ecosystem as much as possible. And so you'll find that yes, one of the things that have happened mostly is you find things like circles, financial institutions, banks being targeted a lot, and in upwards of billions in loss due to insecure configurations. And that's why, like in Kenya, for any banking institution, they put the government put like it's a must for any banking institution to have a cybersecurity professional. And also recently, we also have to have a data protection officer in order to make sure that all the customer data is actually secure. So I would say yes, and many of the attacks that are actually targeting Kenya are also in terms of bots. These attacks are actually automated. So you'll find if you check the Kaspersky cyber map, or the several other cyber maps that show the real-time cyber warfare that's actually happening, and you'll see as if like so many attacks that are targeted. So you'll find that this you see like it's actually like a sort of an actual cyber warfare. So we actually have to be very vigilant of this and put up infrastructure and measures to protect our assets as much as possible.
Fantastic. This actually brings us to the core question of this panel: is how can we improve our cyber resilience? And you mentioned a number of movements that could be done, but maybe Rebecca can kick off this question with her experience in the matter.
Thank you so much. So we are dealing with resilience, how we can improve on our resilience in organizations. And for me, being in this field, I have come to know that there is a lot we can do, but then there is also what we can focus on to actually reduce these cyber attacks. And our main focus, first of all, should be going to the top management of organizations. We can look at cyber experts in every organization and think they are able to do whatever it is they have to do. For example, when you bring on board a cybersecurity expert, okay, for example, like me, and you bring me on board, unless we have the support of the top management, there is nothing much that we can do. And we need to appreciate the fact that cybersecurity is a cost. In every organization, it is a cost. It is not making money. But then top management wants to reduce the cost as much as possible, of course, to make the profit. But then they don't understand the repercussions that come on reducing the funding to security. It is, we all know that by the time you construct a house, you're putting doors. It's just in your mind, you have to put doors. And it's because, of course, you know, you're preparing for the future. You cannot just be in a house without doors. And in organizations, people have invested millions and billions of money, but then they don't want to secure. When you talk about securing the investment, and then they sit back and they want it secure, but then they don't want to pay the price of securing it. And for that matter, I would focus so much on top management. And for example, where I work at right now, we have focused now on top management. We've realized that we shall never achieve cyber resilience unless top management, the board of directors, are in the know of cyber security. And so many people watching, they will understand if we have IT administrators, they have been given a burden of cyber security, and yet cyber security is so broad, and their responsibilities and roles in organizations are also broad as IT administrators. So when you put a burden on to them, at the end of the day, there is no security, and of course you will fall prey. It is so unfortunate that so many organizations wake up after losing billions of money and they appreciate cybersecurity, yet we don't have to lose the money. All we need to do is to just be ready at all times to make sure that we are equipped well and everything is in place. But for cyber resilience for organizations to actually cap down the cyber attacks, the ownership has to go to top management, to those seniors, to those board of directors. So that's the number one focus for me. And then number two focus for me is the government. This is where we need governments to pass laws. Fortunately, I have seen the EU, they have passed the GDPR, and it is doing well because every member of the EU, wherever they are protected. Their personal data is protected. And then when you come to Africa, the governments are laid back. They don't want to care about the losses they are incurring in cybercrime. And this is affecting their economy. Like Joylynn said, Africa is the biggest mobile money transfer market right now in the whole world. And we all know that cybercrime will always follow the money. 90% of the time, cyber attacks follow the money. They want the money. So if our governments can come up with policies, can come up with laws and regulations to help also other organizations to bring up policies to preserve and protect data, preserve and protect the money on their accounts, then I believe that we are going to be on in a better place as far as cyber security is concerned. So for cyber resilience, I would focus on top management of every organization and bring them to the awareness and the knowledge of cybersecurity and why they have to invest the money to protect their investments, and also focus on the governments to pass the laws. For example, in Uganda, they have passed the Data Protection and Privacy Act, and it's already flowing. And we need more countries coming up and passing acts and laws to preserve their economies and preserve their people and citizens.
Fantastic. So you are having more of a top approach, top management, government, institutions. And this is actually a good time to bring in Joylynn as well, because I know she's actually going more of a grassroots approach where she tries to make developers as the first line of defense. So Joylynn, can you chip in?
Yes. Actually, totally agree with Becky in terms of having a top-down approach and in terms of having management buy-in in everything, because
you are muted.
security is
Okay, go ahead.
Security is definitely a cost center, and we actually need management to invest in all this infrastructure, and for sure it is not expensive. If you want to protect all your assets, you have to really invest in protecting. You have to know the value of your data, and what we usually say as well, once you know the value of what you're trying to protect, is whereby at least you can know how much you need to invest to protect your assets, because it makes no sense for you to invest like $1,000 in security infrastructure and then the value of your data is $500. So you have to have a logic of what the value of your data that you're trying to protect, the value of your assets. Yes, from my perspective, once you have the buy-in from management and they're willing to invest in all this security infrastructure, for me, I choose to, what I do as myself, I choose to work with developers because I believe they're the first line of defense, because whatever they're developing is what will be exposed to the public, is what will be available for usage by the public. So if they develop insecure systems, it means that once it's published, once it's released, it's deployed, then it means that it will be vulnerable, our assets will be vulnerable. So what we do is an initiative called DevSecOps, where we integrate security in the DevOps pipeline, whereby we have development and operations. So normally you will find that development and operations don't maybe intertwine in the traditional thinking, because development, whereby you develop a system, you want to release as many products as possible, and in operations, they want to maintain the system. So in this case, you see development wants to release as many things as possible, but operations wants to maintain the system stability. So in this case, in DevOps, at least you're working together. So at least there's an iteration of development. So there's no one time where you can say that a product is finished. So it's always being you develop, like it's a whole loop from development all the way to monitoring, and then now you start again. So it's an interaction between development and operations. So this concept of DevOps started in 2009, but later on in the current years, we've seen now an emphasis on DevSecOps, whereby we are putting emphasis in security. So we say that we need to have a security first approach, because you find that in your software development life cycle, when you don't integrate security early enough, actually the cost of fixing that particular issue is actually more expensive. So we'd rather shift security left to all the way to development stage, whereby it's cheaper to fix a particular vulnerability. Because you'll find something like if you're using a vulnerable Java, and yet a developer has already developed in that particular version, and now it goes all the way now to the next stage of testing, and then now security is involved. That means that you have to, and then vulnerabilities are found. That means they will have to go back to development and now also maybe think the whole architecture. So what we are saying is having a security first approach is important for any organization, and we help organizations in doing this. So in case of anyone is interested in knowing about DevSecOps, they can reach out to me, and we can guide them in terms of maturing the organization's DevSecOps, or even upskilling the developers in secure coding practices, because as I said, I believe they're our first line of defense.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this comprehensive answer. And yes, I think DevSecOps is definitely the way. So being actually secure by design from the first stages of development and throughout the entire cycle just makes more sense than waiting until there is an attack or there is a vulnerability detected later on, then you react. That's a reactive approach. So this is more of a proactive approach. And maybe Siim, you could also jump in and share with us from your observations what could be done in that area to strengthen the resilience of our organizations.
Sure, thanks. Well, I think I would start by going back to what I said about people. And And actually, what Becky said about speaking to the managers and the need to train them, I mean, it's really essential. And the Estonian Information System Authority, we are also active in another project called Cyber for Development. So we are making contributions, and many Estonians, including, are actually involved in various countries in Africa and running trainings. And if I may highlight further to the managers, so basically we have identified 3 areas where we should focus cybersecurity trainings people-wise. So managers, yes, of course, but also the younger generation, so school children, pupils, who are actually, I mean, they will be on the job market in a matter of few years. They are already accessing, of course, the World Wide Web, but they are also using the many apps. They don't necessarily have the training, but they are still using it, and so you need to be vigilant, and you should actually try to have dedicated programs for the children. And then the third category, of course, is the I would say adolescents, or the current professionals, people who are working, who are using the systems, and going back to making sure that they are aware of all the various risks that are out there. I think that's really the third category. In Estonia, we also added one additional category because, I mean, we are a small country, a small society, so how to say, every user counts, and of course every member of the society is a user of the systems of the national infrastructure. And we did a dedicated campaign. So perhaps running training could be a very big effort even for Estonia, but we did a awareness campaign. So basically, if you take a bus, there was a sticker on the back side of the seat. So if you're sitting, and unless you're diving into your mobile device, you can read some tips and tricks about how to stay vigilant, how to remain cyber secure, how not to click on the links, how not to download malicious software. Because as I mentioned earlier, I mean, the attackers, they don't really discriminate. And just going back to what I said earlier about the European picture, European cybersecurity picture is not that different from any other country. I mentioned the intelligence services, but it's also, again, as mentioned by colleagues here, the cybercrime people, they are after money. And there was just recently a case in Russia again, where a compromise of data, so data leak, basically, the car owners of Moscow. So you can imagine Moscow is a multi-million, if not a dozen million city. How many car owners? Their data was on sale on the black market, sold for $800. So I mean, investigate $800, you can find out about millions of people, and that's really something that I guess the car owners didn't realize. But what their data can be used for, that's beyond imagination. So all the VIN codes, the license plate numbers, phone numbers, dates of birth, full names, you name it. So, I mean, eventually everything comes down to resilience of a society. So if you leave anyone out, that's a risk to really anyone, and you can be assured that the cybercrime and the criminals, they don't run out of imagination and new ideas.
So yeah, you mentioned also the cyber for development and probably the connections with Africa, and I'm sure you work with the continent as you mentioned earlier. But like, why don't we have in Africa or an AU Cybernet? We hear about the EU Cybernet. What's your take on that?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's getting to EU Cybernet took Europe. Well, I'm a historian, so I like to go into the facts and figures of the past by nature. But I mean, we started 2019, and the first strategy of the EU, cybersecurity strategy of the EU, was only approved in 2013. So it took basically from having a strategy in place for the whole continent to having this network in place and in development. It took 6 years. So I mean, maybe if you launch this idea now, then maybe 2027. It looks like far in the future. But the good thing in cybersecurity is that things accelerate. So new ideas are launched, and I am really curious to understand and learn what our hackathon teams and the solutions that they have come up with. Having a network in place that covers the whole continent. I mean, Europe is big, but Africa is bigger, and it could be more challenging. just the sheer distancing and connectivity. But I think it's really an excellent idea, and from my perspective, I would be happy to share the experience if there's the will on the African leaders on exploring this path and this idea of yours. So I'm intrigued now, and keep me posted. Thanks.
Yeah, we do. I think that's where also the top management that Rebecca was referring to and the governments can come into the picture. And I see that like there has been this recurrent theme while discussing around like capacity, the awareness, as you all know that we measure the strength of any chain by its weakest link, and usually the weakest link in any organization are people. So if they lack that awareness and you build all the systems you want, someone can send a random phishing email and the whole thing is compromised, right? So what has been done from an education standpoint to tackle this challenge of the cybersecurity field? And maybe Rebecca, you can start.
Thank you so much. And as Siim was talking, we need to understand, Africa needs to understand that cybercrime knows no borders. If you're dealing with an issue in your country, that the cyber attacker has there is no border. We can have wars in border wars, but then when it comes to cybercrime, there is nothing like borders. They will attack anywhere and everywhere. And so, like, for example, Africa should actually stand at the front and unite to cut down the attacks that are coming in. And so on the education perspective, we have so many challenges. And like Siim was saying, that we need the professionals to come on board. But also now in Africa, I'm going to talk about this in the African perspective, because this is where I am aware of. Cybersecurity, as of now, has just started appearing in the curriculum, in the education curriculum in Africa. By the time I entered into the field, we had these international certifications, CISA, Certified Information Security Auditor, Certified Information Security Manager, CIS, and all those others. But we didn't have the curriculum, the cybersecurity curriculum in schools. And for me in particular, I am actually, I think, an advocate. I went into universities and I told them, there is a lot that you're missing up here. And why I actually ended up teaching is because I brought a proposal in one of my universities where I did my master's. And I told them you need to incorporate cybersecurity into your IT or computer science studies. And I explained all this in my proposal, and they knew that they had to do it, because at the end of the day, every organization, every company, every individual has to be aware of cybersecurity. So the challenge right now in Africa is so many companies, organizations, especially the education sector, they have no idea about cybersecurity, to incorporate it into their studies, into the curriculum, so that there is more, we are producing more professionals in that field. And secondly, there is also the bit of practicability. You know very well especially in Africa. I'm talking in Africa because this is where I am well based, and I know someone goes into university and they're pumped with a lot of knowledge. Yes, thank you. But then what about when we look at cybersecurity? It is more practical than any other course because you're coming in to secure an organization from attacks. Very active attackers. They are not sleeping. They are professionals. They are intelligent human beings who are well financed, and they sit. By the time they take out 1 billion or 10 billion out of an organization, out of a bank, they are well financed. They have the skills. And here you are, you're not preparing your professionals to actually counterattack these attackers, to counteract with these attackers. So the practicability, there is a challenge. We are mainly focusing on the content, and we're not focusing on exactly what is needed. Like I went into search for a job, and everything right now, it is what can you do? It is not about your first class in cybersecurity course or IT or anything. It is what can you do for cybersecurity? Because you are at the front line. It's like being in a war zone. You are actually in a war. When you are a cybersecurity professional, you are in war. Just like America sends people in war, you're not sleeping, you cannot sleep, or else you'll be attacked. The moment someone, a cybersecurity professional, understands that they are in a war zone, then they will have to, even the teachers will have to understand how to prepare these students for that particular job market. What can you do? It is not what you know and the first class you carry and the certifications that you carry. It is exactly what you can do. But then in Africa, the practicability of these courses is not there. Also, the other challenge, you know very well, that when you come in as a cybersecurity expert, the first thing they tell you, for you to qualify, yes, you can have a degree, but then they're telling you that you have to have a certification. You know, they always say, CISA is an added advantage. CEH, Siim, CISP, these are advantages, but then we know that they are costly, and you are dealing with on an entry level employee. You're asking them for CISA. They have not yet worked, and they cannot finance this, and then you're asking them. So we have also a challenge with the expensive certifications. If an organization doesn't come out to support, it's people, even those on entry level, maybe interns, we see a challenge in that particular area. So in the education perspective, we need to see the practicability of cybersecurity courses in the curriculum. We also need to make sure maybe avail these certifications and practical certifications to the students before they get into the market.
Fantastic. And I think this connects very well with Joylynn as well, because she's dealing actually with the early fresh graduates, I'm sure, with her in her advocacy. So Joylynn, any additional comments to this?
Yes, actually, before joining Microsoft, I was in Safaricom, and while in Safaricom, I had the privilege of leading campus outreach initiative. So going to campuses all around Kenya, and one thing I noted is actually cybersecurity is actually not incorporated in most of these degrees, and it's something that should be there. So when you're going out there demystifying what cybersecurity is, you'll find that students actually don't know what you're saying. So they're actually finding these sessions more and more informative. So after COVID, when COVID started, we now had to do more virtual events. So that's when we started virtual training sessions for students, so at least to upskill them, be it in cybersecurity, be it in software development and whatnot, because these are actually skills which should be taught in the university, but are actually not taught. When you go into job interviews, you actually find that there's a lot of skill gap between what you're actually expecting the students to actually know and what they actually know. So it's actually up to us just to narrow that skill gap, and also just give back by sharing the knowledge that we've gotten so far, and impacting and mentoring students as well. In Microsoft, we also do university mentorship. I would encourage more and more organizations just to invest in students, and be it, because actually also be benefiting because during the job interviews, you'll be finding more and more suitable candidates if you've already invested in university students. And yes, so but apart from that as well, we also need to have more community engagement. I think in Africa we have several cybersecurity communities, so you need to plug into the community, learn. So what I usually say is, when you learn something, it's better for you to learn and share, because that's how you know that you've actually cemented what you've actually learned. So we have communities like Cyber in Africa. We have women communities as well, where we just try and empower each other. We have She Hacks KE, where I'm one of the founding members as well. We have Women of Security. We have several other communities which are actually there for, and it's free. You're not charged to actually join. Yeah. So it's there, and actually cybersecurity resources are available for you. We have things like cybery.it. We have very many resources on YouTube that are available. If you want to start your career or your studies in cybersecurity, the resources are there. It's just for you to show interest. And actually the jobs are actually there. We don't have, like, 82% of organizations say they have a shortage of up to us to upskill and fill those jobs. Jobs are actually available. It's for us to just upskill and reach out to them.
Fantastic. Siim, very briefly, what has been the biggest challenge also you noticed in the field of cybersecurity from an education standpoint? Very briefly.
Well, from the education standpoint, I think that's that there is simply, I would say, there's very strategically, there's always the conflict as to when you design a university curriculum. So what can you leave in and what should you leave out? And I think updating the curricula in cybersecurity is challenged by the fact that on one hand, cybernetics as such, that's a classical thing. So you need to start from basically learning from scratch. And the amount of information that you need to fill into the curriculum, that is growing maybe on a monthly basis. So I really feel sorry, but also, keep the thumbs up for people who are wrestling with that issue. And we've had, for instance, the cybersecurity master's program in the University of the Italian University of Technology. That's been, I think, now in business for about 15 years. It's an international program to which we have, cordially welcome many international students, and they have taken later on their own paths. And some of them have stayed in Estonia, some of them went back. But just trying to compare what was taught in 2006 and what is taught now, I think that's quite different, and it's really a challenge every year to keep up the good work and keep everything that's relevant included. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's all from our side. We definitely learned how to prepare our next generation for defense. We got the picture of it as a war, even though I don't like that term that much, but definitely we need our line of defenses to be ready. And thank you for the panelists for joining and sharing your expertise. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
Bye.